Hi there, Glocal citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around manifesting a new world. I am your host, Florence Adu, coming to you live, well, not so live by the time you hear this, but from New York City, from Brooklyn. I am back stateside for holiday sojourns with the family. You know, it's the festive season, the time of reflection. And so I'm really happy to have been able to run into my next guest. We happen to be on the same flight on the way back, and she has stopped over in the UK. And here I am in Brooklyn. It's a rainy Saturday morning, and it feels a little bit like my UK experience. I stopped over there on the way. So here we are. And so let's get right to it. My next guest is an award-winning documentary producer and reporter with nearly a decade of international experience. She has produced video content for NGOs, media organizations, and multinationals across West Africa. Her first feature-length documentary, as lead producer and reporter, My Stolen Childhood, received the Association International Broadcasting, that's AIB, Award for Best Documentary in the Human Interest category. She has featured on several international media networks, including CNN, CBS, BBC, Huffington Post, and the Marie Claire magazine. In November 2018, she was featured as part of the BBC's 100 Women series. Brigitte Perenyi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. So glad, so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. And did I pronounce your surname properly?
Brigitte Perenyi.
Okay, I did pretty well, right?
You did well. You did really well.
But
yes.
you say it with the French flair, which gives us a little bit of an indication of some of your background. So tell us, where are you from? Where are you local? And what is your craft?
Okay, so I love to say I was born in Togo to a Togolese Beninese parents. Lived in Ghana for some time, grew up in the US, Florida. I am currently living in England, north of England. But as I'm speaking to you, I am in London for the weekend. And so, yes. And what is my craft? I love documentary, story producing, directing. I'm basically in charge of the story. I'm a bit controlling when it comes to storytelling, I have to say. So I work from pre-production to post and just guiding and leading the story with the team. So that's my craft.
So how did you come into that as your craft? Like, what inspired you to be in that space?
Well, it wasn't really what inspired me, but more so who believed in me, right? Yes, I came across Emmanuel Etim in 2017, and he just thought, I'm this brilliant woman, and he can see some kind of craftiness in me. And so he gave me the opportunity to work with his company, and I was with him for 4.5 years and just doing everything, even learning equipment. So as I started working with him and I started growing in the industry, I realized 2 years ago, he realizes that maybe I should try my hands on directing and like being in charge of the storytelling and of the story. So I started directing and I quite really love it. I found out later on as I was learning and growing that I love storytelling, and I now call it my purpose. Because if you meet me on the street, in a pub, anywhere, you talk about story, even if I'm tired, I have 1 hour of sleep, I would just like come alive, right? And I love talking about stories and human interest stories, to be specific, right? The ones that talk about, that create stories on people's lives, people's companies, people's industries. I've led many projects and productions that having to do with development and social change, right, with organizations. So I've been inspired by the person who believed in me, the team that I've worked with, the stories that we've told, and the talents and the people that I've met throughout my career so far.
So I want to talk a little bit more about some of the projects that you've worked on in your years working with Refine Creative. And that's how we actually intersect. So you all heard a name, Emanuela Tim, who was one of my first, if not my first, one of my first guests on the podcast. So now almost 2 years ago, I guess by now it's 2 years. It's 2 years ago we started, and he was one of my first guests. And so that's how we cross paths. So I've worked with Brigitte on different projects for children's content, which was very exciting. And so I want to understand more about some of those projects, but also more about your story, because I think that probably, I don't think you mentioned it, but I think that probably might have been a little bit of the inspiration with some of the people that you interacted with. So tell us, I mentioned in the introduction that your film, My Stolen Childhood, was an award-winning film. So give our listeners a little bit of some background around that film.
Okay. That film is a personal story led by me. I was on the production team. I was also clearly the subject of the story. I was part of the Chokoshi practice as a child. And when I came out of it, I always knew I wanted to tell my own stories. I coined the narrative, the phrase of saying, controlling your own narrative, right? Mm-hmm. Controlling your own narrative. Mm-hmm. I've always been saying that. And what led to that is because of this inspiration to produce my own story, to narrate it in a way that is dignifying to me, that I am proud of, and that I am more in control of than other people. And so when the idea came about in 2016, we actually pitched the story to Code for Africa and the European Journalism Center. That's where the seed funding came from. And after we got the funding to do the filming, the team came out with thought about a bigger idea for the story because of the way we told it, because of the way I narrated it. Mm-hmm. And so we pitched it to the BBC, Channel 4 News, and I think another media company in England. So BBC was interested, and I had a talk with the executive producer. We told her the idea for the story. I have to be part of it. I need to be part of the edit because it's my story. And I want to have control of how the story is told, because the Chokoshi practice story or news, if you Google it right now, it has always been told by the priests, the people in charge of the shrine's perspective. And I felt like a voice was not given to the women as much as it should have, because the women were taken in their abuse, misuse. And so I felt a woman or any women from that practice, from that system, should be able to narrate their story from their perspective, how they were treated, how their experience going through the shrine, right? Yeah. And so that was my goal, and that was my dying wish, right? And I was given a great team. I had a great team that understood that, a team that understood that people with lived experience should have collaborative process with the people with professional experience when it comes to storytelling. And because I believe a story told with the people whose stories are being told, if they collaborate really well, the stories are stronger. Yeah. Because you have the opportunity for the audience to connect with the person, with the character in a very personal way when they are in charge of narrating or producing their own stories. And so that's how My Stolen Childhood came about. We did not have a name for it during post-production because we just didn't know what name to give it, right? And we didn't come up with a name till the last days of edit. I kid you not. Oh, wow. We came up with this, yes, the last days of edit. My Stolen Childhood, I believe, encompasses what happened to me as a child. My childhood was taken away when I was taken from my parents by my own uncle and put into a shrine, basically to live there and die, because the practice is such that when a child is given up, there's no way in time down the line where the child or the girl is removed from the shrine, taken back home. It doesn't. In theory, research on the practice, in theory, it says you serve for some time, 5 years, 10 years. That is not in practice. In practice, the girl child is left there for the rest of her life.
Wow.
And so in 1997, Christiana Mampo of CNN, she came into Ghana and wanted to do her own personal story. The story has been told by local media, international media, but as we know, Christian just likes to go and do stories on with her own experience and her own way of doing stories. So she decided to come to Ghana to do this, to produce a video on the story. And I just happened to be caught on her camera when she was filming in the community. And she asked, who is this little girl? Is she one of the girls in this shrine? And she was told yes. So when that documentary, 60 Minutes, was produced, it was aired around the world and in America, clearly. So my now adoptive father saw the video and decided to help with my release from the shrine, and then adopted me. And in 1999, I left the continent. So when in 2017, I saw that original CBS on YouTube with an email address underneath. And so I sent an email to that address and I said, I'm the little girl in the video. I just want to thank you for, producing this video, because of this video, I am now a master's degree holder. And somebody replied and said, I was the producer on the video. Do you mind me forwarding your email to Christian? And I said, of course not. I just want to thank her for, producing this video. Because of this video, I'm now as the master's degree holder. I'm now, part of society, and, my future is bright. And so when Christian got back to me, it was around the time where she was producing a new series called Sex and Love Around the World.
Right.
And with ZPZ. And so she said, oh, my team and I are producing this series. We've been trying to figure out which African country to go to film. Since you are in Ghana, it will be a great opportunity to reunite with you, and then perhaps film a Ghana episode, right? And so Refine Creative was the production company that was the fixer company for ZPZ, on the production that Christian was doing with her team. And so when I had the interaction with Christian, Emmanuel was contacted, and then he contacted me. And that's how I came across path with him. It was because I was going to sit with Christian, I needed to meet with him, because they need to know everybody that's going to be sitting down with Christian. Even though I told them clearly, I just want to meet her, have coffee with her, thank her for the documentary she did, with 60 Minutes. So they were like, well, even if you just want to say hi, we still need to know. we still need to vet you. So I was like, okay, no problem. Yeah. So Emmanuel and I had scheduled a meeting, and then I met with him, told him my life story, and he was just like, I'm gonna do more than that. I'm gonna do more than just talk to you as some character person who's gonna sit down with Christian and possibly be in this documentary series. I'm going to offer you a job. I looked at him and I was like, you're mad. Like, what are you talking about? I know he's going to laugh when he hears this part. But I was like, what are you talking about? I never studied film. What is storytelling? I just knew that I always want to tell my story. Like, dude, what are you saying? So, but I was eager, I was eager to learn. really, I just finished my master's degree. So I was just like exploring the world and like what I wanted to do, because I didn't really wanted to go into NGO world 100% per se.
And what did you study for your master's?
International relations and human rights.
Okay.
Yes. The first week, first 6 months with Refine Creative was hell. was just me trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And he lets me do everything from website editing to assisting the production to writing scripts to not knowing what I'm doing every single day, to someone who started traveling with him, being the one in charge of like the story edits, the story production, the research, the questions that we, and then conducting the interviews. It was him and I for some time, almost 2 years, I think, or was it 3? And so he will film, and I conduct the interview and put together, and then we come back and I put together the rough draft, the rough edits of the sound bites, just string the sound bites on the sequence. That's what I knew how to do.
Sure.
And then I hand it to him or, another editor to polish. So yes.
Got it. So you've been through, and this is kind of the story of working in production, right? Like it's to your benefit to be able to go through the arc of all of the roles so that you have a better concept of how the story comes together to be that storyteller.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Wow. Okay. So you in the midst of, so the meet and greet with Christiane happened as you were finishing your documentary or before?
So interestingly, I met up with her on a Wednesday. That same day, we left Accra to start filming.
Okay.
Because for my documentary, we filmed not only in Ghana, we filmed in Togo as well.
Sure.
So it was the production day, that same day, the 17th, I want to say 17th June 2017, we left to film. So my camera crew, like the team was actually around when I met with her.
Okay, yeah, because it's in it. Yeah,
everything was happening at the same time.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. But I like what you said about being a storyteller of your own story and how the Trokosi stories are usually from the perspective of the shrine, because when I watched your documentary, seeing the stories of the women was what like took my breath away, just in terms of understanding like, oh my gosh, like these women, this was their lives. And it was of, and the title, My Stolen Childhood, is so fitting because that is exactly what happens to these young girls, is that they lose themselves. So thank you so much for shining that particular light on this story, because it was very impactful, and it is, as you said, that you have this blessing that you were able to leave and come back, but your gift is to show the world that this is still happening, and even though it's not happening, it's still something that some of our traditional practices are just so detrimental to children,
women and children. Yes. Yeah, I just felt, because I know a lot of people with the FGC practice who...
And so like, FGC for you folks is female genital mutilation. Cutting.
Some of the women I've met, they prefer cutting to mutilation.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I use cutting.
Again, the letting the storyteller tell their story.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So one of the women that I've met, she went through it and she's able to still advocate for it. But for me, I'm not one of those people who can or will want to advocate for the Trokosi practice because of the complexity of the practice. But what I really wanted to give, like you rightly said, give to the world, is sharing my story, because I am in charge of my story. they took my childhood away, but like it was given to me. I'm reclaiming it, right?
Yeah.
I'm taking it back. And, you know, your listeners might not realize it up to this point, but I was mute for years. I didn't speak. I was very timid, shy, very fearful, crippling. Like the fear just crippled me to the point of like taking away opportunities for me, because every little thing overwhelmed me and just gave me anxiety, right? But in 2018, I started working on myself to like overcome that. Yeah. And so for me, as we are speaking about my story, it was for me to produce that one time and put it out there, because I felt that I needed to say to women and people, girls and boys who have gone through, you know, traumatic experience, to let you know that you are not what you've gone through. That was my main goal, was to say that you have life after your horrible experience. You have life after your traumatic experience.
Right.
And you are not to be labeled. You're not what you've gone through, because people like to say, I know sometimes when I come across people, oh, the Chokoshi girl. I am not. I am not. My name is Brigitte.
Right.
Right. And, you know, oh, the girl who was raped. No, she's not. The guy who was, you know, abused. No. We have names.
Sure.
We have a name.
Yeah.
And that is what I wanted to put across.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So we've flown over oceans and now we're in different places. So let me ask you this, why the where? So what brings you to the UK at this certain time?
The UK. I left my job with Refined Creative in October. And, you know, I got to a point where I was not being productive. I was not being beneficial to the team, to the story, to my clients. So I felt it was time for me to move on, right? With no plan B.
Oh, okay.
Don't do this. As you're listening, don't do this. With no plan B. But then I took it to the Lord in prayer. I was like, you know what? I know you spoke to me. You told me to do this. I've done it. What next? And so a lady friend of mine, we've been friends for years. She asked, you know, what was I doing for the holidays? And would I like to come and stay with them for the holidays and stay longer? Right. So I was like, okay, coming to the UK, I will take this as an opportunity to avail myself to you know, anything that may come, I may come across, that may come my way. And so I came to the UK as a way of like launching into a new level of my life, or a new experience. I've lived here before, but this time as a professional, as a documentary film producer, director. It's a different mindset, and also somebody who has kind of grown, you know, emotionally, spiritually, personally, professionally. So I'm definitely in a different mindset. I speak more now, because the day I landed, I spoke to documentary MA students in a university.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah.
Oh, good for you. Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, I came for new opportunities. You know, the world is our oyster, as you say. So.
Sure. So I like that you said that, you know, you've come and you've grown, because that you realized that you were stagnant in your role. You know, that takes a lot, because people stay and spin their wheels. And I think COVID has helped people to realize, you know, I just don't want to waste time or be in some kind of situation that's not what I feel is truly who I am. So that you were able to do that, that's kudos, you know, and trust that the story would play itself out in a beneficial way, and a more beneficial way.
Yeah, you know what, Florence, to be honest with you, when you've experienced difficulties in life and you've gone through a large part of your life where people are making decisions for you because you feel lost, you feel, you know, like you're drowning all the time, you get to a point where you're just like, you know what, enough is enough. I need to explore this life for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think I was. And I've done crazy things before, but this was so difficult for me because I didn't have any other income. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking, I'm gonna like take this time to speak to those who even maybe at the edge of making a decision or trying to make a decision. I know it's scary, but like when your heart is in it, when it's your calling, when it's your purpose, you will find your way. And I don't want to cry. I'm a bit emotional. I'm an emotional girl. I'm just gonna put that out there. But like it's the world is for us to live, not for you to live it for somebody. You have to live it for you. And for me, I want to live in my purpose. I want to live in who I've been alive to live, right? Because I say alive because I've experienced near-death accident like 4 times. And I'm still here. And I feel like, okay, now is the time, B, to start pursuing, that life for yourself. And I think that's why I was able to, in the midst of the anxiety, the fear, the resistance, I was able to push through and make that decision. And also like somebody who is coming through people pleasing, it might be difficult for some of you because I don't want to make this person sad, upset, or, I don't want to come across ungrateful. Honey, it's your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having a chat with a friend earlier today, and they sent me an article that's in Newsweek. And I was like, oh, kudos, nice ink. And he was like, oh, I felt kind of like it was a bit gauche to send that to you because it's something that's quote unquote not done. And I had to write back and say, you know what? All that about not tooting your own horn, that's a thing of the past, because particularly because he's in this global health role and a place where people need to know what you're doing. So like the idea of being too humble, you can't, talk about what you're doing. That's a thing of a past. Like I really, just like you said, if you don't talk about yourself, who will?
Yeah, exactly. But majority of Blacks, because I was in a Zoom yesterday of like CEOs in tech and business, and I will say I learned so much from that Zoom meeting. And now a few of the guests said something that's so profound. We Blacks, right? The imposter syndrome is like deeply in us because we are brilliant, we are good, but then it's like because of our history, we have to, do 10 times more to be able to be seen. We are in a world of like, we are the minority. But the thing is, it's okay. Like you're saying, like we have to start creating those spaces and those environments for us Blacks to encourage each other and one another to say that, look, you are good. You are brilliant. Okay, no, this is not so great. I know you can do better. Or, okay, forget what that person said. Just give it a try or give it a go, and I think that's holding us back a lot as Black people. And I just wanted to,
So listeners, if you're doing something good, let people know, because we need to know. We need to be tooting everybody's horn that's doing something that's manifesting a new world. Like that's my passion, because we are in dire need of a new world to be manifested.
Yes, we are. And I'm for being in charge of your narrative. The Black community, the Africans, we need to own our narrative. We need to start. We have started, right? And we're just gonna, get better and grow and get to the next level. So I'm just gonna take this time to, encourage one another to try as much as possible, to pitch what you want to see. Don't let anybody who do not know the environment in which you're working tell you what to do. Because a lot of our tech people, like when they go in the pitching rooms, they get talked down and make them seem like they don't know what they are talking about. But they do know what they are talking about. They live in these communities. They live in these environments. And so I just hope that we gain that confidence, continue to gain that confidence to stand straight and say, you know what? And I respect your opinion. I see where you're coming from, but I know what I'm talking about. Right. I have the data here. Right. I have the facts here. Exactly. And then,
take it from there. Yeah, nice. So let's talk about what we hear. So you mentioned you're on a Zoom call with some CEOs in certain communities. This is where I want to ask you my Glocal Speak question. So this is where I want to ask you if you would share a word or phrase or saying that is a meaningful part of your local experience and why or how you came to value it as Glocal Speak. So I know you're new to the UK, so I think you can choose from any number of your local experiences to share.
Wow. I do love, and this is very common, but I do love and now live in it. The world is your oyster. You know,
Mm,
I think when the moment I said it earlier, it really does resonate with me
mhm,
because I was being held back, but
mm,
now I stand here, I sit here, and I'm gonna tell you that it's something that really rings clear in my mind and in my ear. The world, is a vast world and with so many opportunities. So
mhm.
yes, that's what I would say.
It's the
The
world
world
is your
is
oyster.
to explore.
Take advantage. Right.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So, let's talk a little bit more about some of the projects that you worked on and how, from a business perspective, like you mentioned, you took a leap in moving on from working with Refined Creative. I want to kind of rewind a little bit and understand a little bit more about the business of structuring and producing documentaries, particularly because you've done your own. And we know that funding is job one, and then finding the right team is job two. So, or they're both together as job A, basically. Let's call it that. So, tell us a little bit more about the experience of putting together a team and finding the funding to do documentary film work.
Okay. So I'll be brutally honest and say the team was put together for me,
Mm. Hmm.
both in my personal production and then with Refined
Sure.
Creative.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so I think I will speak from working, how important is it working with a team or, to produce an impactful story
Mhm.
or an inspiring story, an
Mhm.
inspirational story. Everybody's voice matters on the team. And but what is more important for me and for what the project I've worked on is the voice of the talents, the voice of the person whose story we are telling, even if
Mhm.
it's a corporate video we did for think tank in Ghana. At the end of the day, it's their story, the organization's story. What are they saying? What do they want to put out there? And then, yes, we are being hired for our professional expertise, but they are the holder of the story. I always say that, like,
Mhm.
the people are the holder of the story, the individual is the holder of the story. So we collaborate.
Mhm.
What I love about Refine Creative that they do is with initial conversation, we send you a brainstorming sheet,
Mhm.
right? And on that, you tell us, I'll just say a couple of things. Why do you think your story should be told? Who has told it before? And who are your audience? And who will be likely to speak your vision across, right? So I love that, and we collaborate with the clients or the people on that brainstorming document. We go back and forth and then develop it. It is from that document that we take it into our SOW,
Okay.
right? And come put together the story breakdown with the budget and objective and then the budget.
Mhm.
And from there, we on the team with Refine Creative, we typically go into research. What are some of the key themes, topics, or if it's an individual, if it's an orphanage, what is the message that we want to get across? Who will be the children who will speak to this, but keeping it dignifying, right?
Mm.
Being
Mhm.
able, because it is difficult to work with it's not difficult, but you have to be strategic when you work with children, as you know for yourself,
Mhm.
on the children's production. So for me, how I come in is with the emotional part of it, with the connecting with the character bit of it, and speaking with the team on this and that. So collaboration is key to producing an inspirational story or an impactful story or a great story, to be honest. And when it comes to My Stolen Childhood, when Angela pitched it and used my story as the protagonist, I was very clear with her on being part of the story, being part of the pre-production, the production, and the post. Well, of course, I have to be part of the production because I presented it. But and post, post was number one. Florence, I sit with you. I sit here and I tell you some of the things that happen in post. If I hadn't been in the room, it wouldn't have turned out a certain way. Yeah. And not to say anything with the team, it's because, when you're dealing with a certain subject that you may not live, or you're not in the country of the origin of the subject or the story, it's important to learn as much as possible the context.
Yes.
And the context of the issue. And because even though I lived there as a child, but I did a research on it as my dissertation, and I know the dynamic of people in Ghana and in Togo. So I'm like, yeah, you can't say that. No, we can't put that image over this soundbite. And I did. I had to. And I was so blessed with the team because they understood it. And I think, to be honest with you, I think it was because I needed to have that experience to be able to do what I'm doing now. Because right now I'm putting together who I am as a storyteller, who will be my clients. I'm very much interested in narrative transportation stories that would draw in the audience. And that means being sensitive to terms, to imagery, to sound. And that is really that's one of my specialties. And I don't know what I'm asking for is common, but I am going to create that role for myself, which is story producer, director, being just solely focused on the story. I was told by a mentor that it may be difficult for me to find work, being so niche, but I believe in anything. I believe God can do anything. And I believe it's possible for me to have that specialty because it's needed, especially telling African stories.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that kind of grew a little bit out of the fixer roles that you worked on at all, or just this generally out of the experience of working on documentary?
The experience of being filmed at 7 years old. The experience, because when I watch it, when I watch it without even like a production lenses, I can see that there are some images that I'm not proud of, and I will not readily available. I will not readily, show it to you. Oh, Florence, go and Google, go and watch, CBS 60 Minutes Chokoshi, because there are some things I'm not so thrilled about. Yeah. And because the way it made me feel when at 19 years old, I rewatched the video, that really stood to me. It stood out for me. And knowing that I want to produce my own story, because I can then control the imagery and the sound. So that's where that came out of, like, being story producer director. And, Emmanuel believing in me and pushing me to go for that. I now love it. I now see why I was able to be given such a great team to produce My Stolen Childhood, such a great production company as Refined Creative to start my career with, because we've produced I've been part of over 10, 15 productions with Refined Creative. So yes.
That's awesome. Okay. So let me ask you this. We have what we call our mindset hack. And I think this is a good point to ask that question. So what is your favorite or an innovative mindset hack? Now, this is one that you can imagine or one that you know of.
Okay. I learned something that pertains to, I think, every aspect of my life now is you can't always wait for those who hurt you to come back and help you through your healing process. And you can't, so it's almost like you can't wait around and let people do things for you or have people and expect people to do things for you. The moment I actually learned that in therapy, and I threw a fit. I was like, no, I didn't have any part in what happened to me as a child. They should come back and say and apologize. Like they should take responsibility. And she's like, no, you have to take okay. So the mind hack is you have to take responsibility for your own personal growth, for your own actions, for your own inaction, for your own healing. And that, as much as it will hurt, listening to it or hearing my therapist say that, after a couple of days or after a week, it really gave me strength embracing that. Yeah. Because it is true. Yeah. I think the moment she said that, give me that analogy, was when I availed myself to in the healing, like being able to, like, I settle in, like I relaxed in the healing process. Because up until that point, I was still waiting for somebody to come and, apologize or say, help me go through the process. And it's like, no, you're on your own now. Yeah. You have to decide for yourself, what kind of life do you want to live? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a good one, because there's a lot of trauma and a lot of blame game going around. Yeah. And it's like, you don't always have access to the source of your trauma, the causes of the trauma. So it makes perfect sense that it's taking responsibility is the starting point, for how you want to feel, right? Like not for what happened to you, obviously, but for how you want to feel, how you want to live your life, how you want to be and present in the world. And to be clear, taking that responsibility, coming to that realization does not devalue what you've gone through. It does not belittle what you've gone through. It's saying, I am more than sitting here and feeling sorry for myself. I am powerful. I am able to have a healthy life, a vibrant life, a positive life. And so that decision is for you, because the world needs you, to be your best self. So I'm big on mental health. So yes. We always, same here. Like we need it. We need people to talk about it, share about it, and direct people to resources on it, Yeah. So we've talked about you and your professional life and all of those good experiences, but tell us a little bit more about who you are when you're not working. And I usually ask the question, are you a reader, a watcher, or are you a listener, to get that conversation started? Which one are you? I'm not going to be fair to your listeners, but I'll try my best. Okay. I can't choose one. Okay. I cannot choose one. I'm a watcher because I'm a documentary producer, film producer. Yes. Everything I watch now, it's fortunate and unfortunate. I don't know if it's, my fellow production people, I can't watch a film with a relaxed mindset anymore. I watch it to steady, So I'm a watcher of documentary films. And in the last few months, I've taken on reading, but reading on self-development and your positive and restructuring your mind, or like healing of your mind and soul. So I've been, I love reading. I love reading.
So what are some of your, first of all, some of your favorite documentaries or best studies in the documentary world?
I'm gonna say this, and I hope Netflix and watch it, and then come back to me and be like, Brigitte is crazy. I watched this documentary. It's a Nigerian documentary called Awon Boys, and it's street boys. Actually, the word Awon is street. Forgot which language, but it's about street boys and the hood and the lifestyle that they live. And I watched it with such an open mind, even though the production to me is not so high quality, but like the story, when I watched it, what I could picture myself that being produced in different parts of the world. Because for me, as you know, like stories of like heart stories is what I live for. And so stories like that, I would love to just spend 2 months with, maybe one or two characters on the streets in the slum there, and like learn about who they are as people. Sure. What the documentary did was they interviewed a lot of the men living in that condition. But what I, with the human narrative aspects of it, what I would have loved is choose one or two characters and then follow their life for 3 months, for like a month or 2 or 3 months, and then bring it together and then just like humanize their story and who they are, and not just like the condition under which they live, but just like humanize them, And so, yeah, I watched that, and I watched The Creative Brain. I love that. You guys have to watch it. Yes. Okay. It's amazing.
That's also on Netflix, right?
Yes, that's also on Netflix.
Okay.
Because you're listening, majority of them are Glocal citizens. They can get on Netflix.
It's true.
And get it. Yes, both documentaries are on Netflix.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, love The Creative Brain. Oh, it's amazing.
Okay, good. Yes. And then so speaking of brain, and you said you're reading more about, brain development and things like that. What are some of the books that you can recommend or share with us?
Not so much specific brain development, but like I think maybe healing of mind, spirit, and soul. Me and My Big Mouth by Joyce Meyer.
Okay.
Woman Evolve by Sarah Jakes Roberts.
Okay.
And I watched, because I believe I'm gonna like live my purpose and be just like anything will work out for me. I read Crazy Faith by Michael Todd.
Okay.
And it's just positive affirmation, like speaking, having high hope. Right? And working towards it, putting together your vision and working towards it, but believing that God is going to, you and I, like the way we met. And then my Airbnb host, he's a documentary producer as well. Like believing that, things are going to align for you, right? People are going to come in your life and you're going to strike conversation that will lead to collaboration. And just having that, I'm really big on faith and hope. So yes, those 3 books, what I'm reading right now. And, a more heavy one is Healing of the Soul. It's also by Joyce Meyer.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So we have some real in-depth reading to catch. Courtesy of Brigitte.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I will send you the proper like titles and the author, and so you can put it in the description.
Show notes. Yeah, I will. Thank you. You know the drill. We like to have good show notes.
I know the assignments.
Okay. All right. Well, Brigitte, this has been so awesome. Thank you for your bright energy and your optimism and your uplifting thoughts. Before we go, do you have any last words for our listeners?
Wow, last thoughts for listeners.
I like that exhale. That was a nice one.
I just want to say to you, I believe in you. So believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I say I believe in you because from my experiences, it's difficult to believe in yourself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It would take someone to come to you. It takes someone, to say, I believe in you, for you to take a step back and say, okay, what do they believe? What do they see? Let me,
mm-hmm. Understand.
Yeah, let me evaluate myself and see what they see, or work towards seeing what they see. Because sometimes it takes time. I'm still struggling with it, but I didn't believe in myself, and Emmanuel believed in me. My dad, my sweet father, believes in me. I have a few friends who believe in me, and they say it to me, right? And it encourages me. So I just want to say, if you're listening, since you're listening, I want to tell you that I believe in you. I believe in the projects that you're doing, the outline, the rough draft, the brainstorming documents. Go for it, and don't let the little voice inside stop you from pursuing your dreams, your goals, and your purpose.
Nice. Those are great last words. And a great way to kind of close out a year of reflections and, a little bit of tumult, but we're all good. And take it into 2022.
Yeah.
We're there. All right, listeners, this has been another episode of Glocal Citizens. You can catch us each and every Tuesday with new episodes at www.glocalcitizenspod.com and wherever you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You know the drill. Wherever you get your podcasts. So please subscribe. You know what? As a gift to all of us, share the podcast. Tell someone about it and leave us a note, leave us a hi, recommend a guest. We love to hear from you. So until next time, listeners, bye for now.